Hey, shuckalugga kapow. How's it going, old schoolers? You're kicking it old school with Russell JS, and I'm your host, Russell JS. This is going to be a really great album battle royale. We're going into MTV Unplugged territory. And you know what? This is going to be a real treat. It's going to be legend against legend. Well, half legends versus legends, or legends and half, whatever you want to say. But the two Unplugged albums I am going to put pin against each other. Jimmy Page, Robert Plant versus No Quarter. I remember when MTV was promoting this heavy back in 1994, Page and Plant getting together. Everybody thought it was going to be a full-on Led Zeppelin reunion, but it was sans John Paul Jones even. Even John Paul Jones wasn't part of it. So it just became Jimmy Page, Robert Plant unleaded. And I can remember when MTV and VH1 were broadcasting the TV show both at the same time. And after that TV show was over, they put on the movie Led Zeppelin. And it was my first time seeing it. Led Zeppelin, The Song Remains the Same, the concert movie that was released theatrically in 1976, which featured footage of Led Zeppelin in concert when they had like a 3-night stay at Madison Square Garden. And also each of the band members, it was the concerts, the Madison Square Garden concerts in 1973 at the time, but it showed the band members in the current time, at the time the movie was released in 1976, what they were up to, and that they're receiving tour dates and having their own kind of in-mind fantasies. That is going to go up against Kiss Unplugged, which everybody knows the legendary story of this coming about, where Kiss went ahead and did the Unplugged show, and it was broadcast on Halloween in 1995. And what viewers and even the audience that were at the show that night, what treat they didn't know they were in for was they got on stage with Ace Frehley and Peter Criss. They did a few songs together as the original lineup. And then the current lineup at the time with Bruce Kulick and Eric Singer came out, and you saw Kiss past and present on stage together performing to get on a couple more classics, which would lead later on the next summer to them doing the reunion tour, the 1996-97 Alive Worldwide Reunion Tour, which was the biggest tour of the 1990s. So these two albums, now for Kiss Unplugged, I took out a few songs because Jimmy Page, Robert Plant, No Quarter has 13 tracks, and Kiss Unplugged had 15 tracks. So if you notice a little decline there, then let me go ahead and say I took out Do You Love Me and Every Time I Look at You. But, I just wanted to make sure that everything was even. Sometimes I don't get that. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I could add demos, of unreleased material from the albums just to, make it even. But tonight I just decided that I was going to take out Do You Love Me and Every Time I Look at You. So both albums have 13 tracks. And don't worry, I did not leave out Rock and Roll All Night. I would love to do that, but a lot of you might get pissed, a little mad at me about that. How could you take out Rock and Roll All Night? Some of you will agree that Rock and Roll All Night is an overplayed track, and some of you still love it. Hey, you know what? I'm with you because you know what? I love this version, and I love the Alive version because you got the guitar solo in it. And remember, if you're new to the channel, feel free to hit a like, subscribe, leave comments in that box down below. Ring the notification bell. Ring the bell for notifications. And don't forget to tell your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your son, your daughter, your grandma, your grandpa, your great-grandma, your great-grandpa, your cousins, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your husband, your wife, your coworkers, your classmates, your cellmates, your, your warden, your principal, your teacher, your professor, your pets, anybody who's anybody that likes to kick it old school. And now, without further ado, let's see how these bad Oscars rank out, shall we? And you know what? I think there's going to be quite a few ties. So I got our old friend George Washington and the tail end, to go ahead and determine the fate of which one will be the winner. Now, in the case of Jimmy Page, Robert Plant, No Quarter versus Kiss Unplugged, Nobody's Fault But Mine versus Coming Home. Well, you know what? I love the Presence version from Led Zeppelin. I actually like that better, so you know what? And I love the song Coming Home. So Kiss gets the point there. Thank You versus Plaster Caster. Not really a big fan of either track, but if I have to pick one, I think I would go with Plaster Caster, because Gene did write some great songs. Ooh, and this is where we get our first tie. No Quarter versus Going Blind. What can I say? I love both those songs, so both albums will get a point there. Friends versus Domino. I'm going with Domino. Yala versus Sure Knows Something. You know what? I have to go with Sure Knows Something. Now, my favorite track off Led Zeppelin 3, and I love this version too, Since I've Been Loving You, going up against... Oh wait, no, sorry about that. City Don't Cry versus A World Without Heroes. City Don't Cry is okay, but I love World Without Heroes. The Elder is a really killer album. I don't care what Gene and Paul say about it, or what the critics ever said about it. Now, here we go. Since I've Been Loving You versus Rock Bottom. I gotta go with both the Alive and the studio version of that song. And I guess that the Unplugged version is good too, so they both get a point. Oh boy, let's see. The Battle of Evermore going against I Still Love You. I Still Love You is a killer ballad. I do like this version as well as I do the studio version and the Alive 3 version, but the Battle of Evermore is stealing the point there. Wonderful One versus Every Time I Look at You. Easily, most definitely, Every Time I Look at You. All right, let's see. What else do we got going on here? That's the Way versus 2000 Man. You know what? I think this is going to be a tie. I do like that track, so they're both getting a point. Gallows Pole, another favorite Zeppelin classic of mine off of Led Zeppelin 3, and I do love this version as well, is going up against Beth. Ooh, this is gonna hurt. And let's see. This is gonna be the second tie, so there's gonna be no coin flippage here. And let's see, what else do we have? The Four Sticks versus Nothing to Lose. You know, Four Sticks, oh boy, this is going to be, because Nothing to Lose, this is awesome, because this is where you got the original lineup along with the then current lineup. So, you know, this is where we're going to have to do the flip. Heads, it'll be the Four Sticks, and tails, Nothing to Lose. And the winner is, and I'm picking it up to where it landed, Heads, the Four Sticks. All right, last track. Kashmir versus Rock and Roll All Night. Now, here's the thing. I love this version of Kashmir. I am so tired of hearing the original Led Zeppelin studio version. And you know what? Despite the fact I think Rock and Roll All Night has been overplayed, I already mentioned that I do love the Alive 1 version and this version. So heads Kashmir, tails Rock and Roll All Night. That was a dud. And the winner is, oh wait, that was another dud. No. Here we go. And the winner is Kashmir. So here we are. We're at the very end of this album battle. We've got Jimmy Page and Robert Plant, No Quarter, with 7 points. Kiss Unplugged with 10 points. Right here. You see it here. Kiss Unplugged winner. I mean, I love both these albums if you were to ask me which one I like better. But you know what? It's a stroke of fate here. That's why I do the coin flipping now in the middle of the album battle. Because I want everything to be equal, fair, and balanced. But that's, you know, that's our winner right there is Kiss Unplugged. I mean, you know, like I said, if you're going to get nasty in the comments about it, just remember, hey, it's all a stroke of fate, man. I mean, you know, it's all stroke of fate. I love both of them. I love them both equally. But sometimes I just got to flip the coin and let fate decide for me. At any rate, that's all the time I have for this video. Pretty soon, once I've gone ahead and remodeled my room, aka what I've always called the laboratory since the days of Dr. Old School. I've gone ahead and, you know, remodeled things. I took out my old bed and my old box spring, and I replaced it with a twin air mattress, inflatable mattress, which I'm gonna have to buy a new one because this one, I mean, maybe I didn't know about care and maintenance on, you know, an inflatable mattress. And I pulled the bookshelf that was in my closet up against the wall where my old bed was. So I'm going to have a different themed shelf. That bookshelf on top, the top shelf is like a whole thing dedicated to Kiss. And the shelf below that is all my music CDs, pretty much all I have on music, and a good lot of my DVD and Blu-ray collection. And the bottom is like DVDs of, you know, my music collection, you know, of music as well. And I got another shelf in there where the top shelf is going to be dedicated to Star Wars. And I'm going to have another shelf dedicated to the New York Yankees, then Pac-Man, then the 80s. And possibly, if I can find at a cheap prices on eBay, old school, you know, vintage Disney and Universal, you know, souvenirs like the stuff you would get at the parks. You know, if I could find it at a very reasonable price on eBay. I'm just doing things little by little. I mean, I'll show you a little bit once I've cleared off everything. But as always, keep it real, keep it fresh, keep it chill, keep kicking it old school, listen to old school music, watch old school movies and TV shows, play old school video games. Get you enough of love, get you enough of peace, get you enough of tranquility, less chaos, no chaos, less drama, no drama. You know, just keep kicking it old school. And I always wish you, as your old pal Russell JS, wishing you all Godspeed. May the force be with you always. And shuckalaka kapow. See you in the next video.